trying to figure out this Zoom thing. I've been using Skype, but this is like the first time we're doing the video aspect of it, and it's kind of fun. You know, you get the background. Although with Zoom, you can use the virtual background. Although I have a legitimate media backdrop, which is one of the things that we sell at California Canopy, but then it's not covering the whole thing. So I got to make some adjustments here. Garrett, what the heck should I do to fix the problem?
Oh man, well maybe go back to Skype.
That's not a bad idea. Well, everyone, Garret Shea, we just met last week, and Garrett started a really cool company called Rally Gear, and Rally Gear is providing face coverings that are custom, and it falls right in line with what we're doing. So we partnered with Garrett and Rally Gear, and we're starting to sell these now and provide these to the schools that need it. We just got a big quote request that came in. We just literally sent it out a few minutes before we got on this call. So who knows? We'll see what happens with it. But one of the main reasons why I wanted to have Garrett on this call or on this podcast is because he's an entrepreneur. He works with a lot of education institutions and a lot of organizations that are doing a lot of cool things. Plus, I'm always interested in people that are really making a difference and that have to pivot quite a bit. So with that said, Garrett, welcome to the Unity is Community podcast.
Oh, Matt, thanks for having me on. Certainly I love what you do, and just honored to be your first video interview.
It is. I'm like, I needed to whiten my teeth or something too, but I didn't get that far. I literally just got this webcam like a half hour ago, and my daughter was in here and she's trying to check it out, and because I got a TV monitor for my monitor, and then we got this backdrop thing, and we got the microphone. So we're just trying to figure out how this is going to work. And then as you saw, Skype was kind of a pain in the butt, and it wasn't even reading my camera. So I'm like, well, let's do Zoom. So I guess it's working out for now. We got the weird angle thing going here. So I'm like looking at you, but then you're over here. Anyway, I'll navigate through. So hey, I wanted to have you on a Unity is Community podcast because I wanted to learn more about you. Your dad was the head coach of Rutgers football. You played Division I college football. You get into business. Kind of walk me through what it was like growing up to be the son of a football coach. How much did you learn? How much did you learn there? And then how much were you able to implement some of those tools when you got into business?
Yeah, great question. So, growing up the son of a college football coach, you're moving around every couple of years. You're kind of you're being thrust into new communities and trying to figure out how to make friends and fit in and how to just navigate these new situations. So certainly, it was an adventurous childhood upbringing, and then got exposed to some great football coaches. Had a chance to listen to locker room speeches by Bruce Snyder and Bill Walsh, and you just go through the Steve Mariucci and you just kind of learn football through osmosis. You just kind of.
And your dad coached with Bill Walsh at Stanford, correct?
He sure did. Yeah.
What was that like?
It was incredible. Coach Walsh and the Walsh family, actually, my first car came from Bill Walsh. So
really?
Like, not many people can say, hey, they got their it was a Volvo sedan. So
safe Volvo. I used to have one, man. They're good cars. That's awesome. So how long your dad was at Stanford for how many years working for Bill Walsh? 2, 3?
Yeah, 3 years.
And then he wound up getting the job at Rutgers. And you guys lived in a Bay Area, and he had to move all the way across country. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I have great admiration for my dad. Just like my senior year of high school, I was at Bellarmine Prep up there in San Jose, and he was up coaching football in the CFL. And instead of us moving, him moving our family, he just said, hey, you're going to stay put. You're going to finish off your senior year, and I'll commute. And so he lived out of an apartment up there and came back, for my games. And And then eventually he got the head job at Rutgers, and then the whole family moved out there.
So how old were you when you got the job at Rutgers?
So I was a senior in high school, so 17, 18 years old.
So did you get to stay at home, or did you have to go over there with him?
You know what? I actually, by the time he took the job, I'd accepted a scholarship to go to Ohio State. So I actually went to Ohio State, played there or was there as a freshman, and then transferred to Rutgers in his second year at Rutgers.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you were at Ohio State, and okay. So what things happened or transpired that presented the opportunity for you to go play with your dad at Rutgers?
Going back to when you grow up as a coach's kid, there's not that much time that you get a chance to spend with your dad. And as you look at it, you say, hey, if I can go and play for him for 4 or 5 years, I'm going to be around him every day. And for me, it was an easy decision. I didn't do it right out of high school because I wanted to give myself a chance to go to Ohio State and play there. And then it just, the door opened up and I ran through it and, didn't look back. Loved every minute that I was at Rutgers University, and graduated there with a degree in business, went to the business school and just, had a great time both on and off the field, if you would.
Okay. So describe what it's like playing for your dad. Is he harder on you? Does he treat you the same? Is it different? Does he have higher expectations? And then in turn, you're in college, man. you're in college. There's all sorts of shenanigans going on. We all know this stuff, right? So what was that dynamic like?
Yeah, when you get called in the head coach's office, it's usually not a good thing. But I think once or twice I got called in to have a father-son moment / head coach football player moment. But I'll tell you what, I was a defensive player, and he was really an offensive coach. He's quarterback specialist and obviously offense coordinator, et cetera. So he let our defensive staff run the defense. And I had a great coach, longtime NFL guy, and Charlie West. And really, Coach West was the one who I worked with on a daily basis and who got after me. And it was probably a little bit awkward as I look back for him, because he's got the coach's kid who's also his boss, his boss being the head coach, having to coach. And so I'm sure it was a little bit of a, there's probably some awkward moments, but, he did a great job and really pushed me, and, wouldn't trade him in for any coach there is. So.
What type of success did you guys have there?
My first year we were 5-6, and we were it was the old Big East, as I kind of
And so this was like 98, 99, 2000 type of thing.
Yeah, 98. So we had we were up against Donovan McNabb at Syracuse, and
that's right. Rutgers was back. That's right. I forgot about that back then. So you were facing all those teams.
Yeah, and Michael Vick was just a true freshman in the Big East, and I mean, you go down the list of all the different great players and teams, and it was a different probably a different situation, but we were one game away from being 6-5. And of course, we have Tulane at home when Tulane was was undefeated and led by Sean King and Rich Rod and we took that game as a loss, and that's the difference between us going to a bowl game and us not.
You played corner and safety, correct?
Correct.
And you got to play against Donovan McNabb and Michael Vick?
Against McNabb, probably only for a half. Those guys probably only played for about a half. We were, we struggled a little bit. But yeah, both incredible players. Obviously, just as hard to tackle as they were to defend when they threw the football. So,
I always like to ask former athletes about some of the lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their athletic career and how they were able to utilize some of those experiences, that confidence that you gain from being an athlete, and how much that can potentially help in the business world. I know for me, it helped, and it provided, I think, a foundation of belief in yourself, right? What's kind of your take on that whole thing?
Yeah, for me, it's easy to kind of point to one thing, and that's work ethic. I look at it and say, there was one thing I could control, and it wasn't my talent, it wasn't my size, it was how hard did I work and how much was I a student of the game. And that's, if I were to meet you on the street, you wouldn't say, hey, that guy played at Ohio State. You would say, he's probably a pretty average looking guy. But I would outwork everybody in the weight room, on the field, and then in the film room. And at the collegiate level, that was the difference. Is were you a student of the game? Did you understand the mental side, and did you put in the hours to train your body, and in all aspects? It's not just one thing. It's were you committed from a nutritional standpoint, from a training standpoint, from a studying standpoint? All of those pieces came together to allow you to succeed. A lot of times, what we talked about was you win the game the week of. You don't win the game on Saturday. You walk onto the field on Saturday knowing whether you're going to win. And if you have any question about it, you're probably not. And you probably didn't prepare. And so that preparation to win was certainly something that I took away from college football and put into the business world.
So the preparation, key. You recently had to pivot with your business, and you run an events management business, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, my whole career has been events and sponsorships. So I've built events like the U.S. Army All-American Bowl on NBC, or the PlayStation All-American Baseball game on Fox Sports, and I've run the sponsorships for them. So I've had to go out and find the right corporate entities to come in and spend marketing dollars to reach the audience, and so obviously when COVID-19 hit, my whole business is built around corporate marketing and corporate sponsorship. And as soon as it hit, I was running, the week before I ran an event for the Eagles, and we were supposed to have about 4 other events over the next couple months. And the Eagles, canceled the first one and then the second one. And at that point, we had kind of said, hey, this is going to be a challenge in the world of sponsorship and events, especially in the grassroots side. Like, I run grassroots, high school, youth, community type events. We're not out there running NFL games or Super Bowls or things like that. We're a very grassroots, focused entity. And so we knew that it was going to be we knew it was going to be a struggle. And so at the time we had 10 clients, and I mean, basically, within a week stretch, we lost half of them, because half of the clients were like, "Listen, we're in the grassroots event business. We don't think we're going to have events this year," and they're pretty much right. So we had to figure out, hey, because I have about 10 staff members, and I wanted to say, instead of me trying to figure out how to furlough them or how to, at some point let them go, I said, hey, we got to figure out what is the right solution, and how do we build it and take advantage of our strengths. And so we pivoted and started Rally Gear, really with the focus of how do we make wearing a face covering a little more spirited, and how do we work with schools and youth sports leagues and folks that, for the most part, are probably going to resist having to wear a face covering, and how do we make one so that they can have, makes it a little bit easier. I'm not going to say, who enjoys wearing a face covering?
Well, what's funny, and I think we talked about this the other day, is that I really think that this is going to be lasting, and here's why: because the kids are so innovative, right? And we're always a step behind the kids. They started on Facebook, then all the parents go to Facebook, and then they go to Instagram, and then all the parents go to Instagram, and then they're flipping every time. Oh, the parents are here. This is no fun. They ruin the party. I just think that this is something that they're going to be able to use at football games, at basketball games, and it's going to be a whiteout, a blackout, a red out, whatever, and they're going to have their masks on, and it's going to look cool. That's just what I think. After we get done with all this COVID stuff, that's just what I think is potentially going to happen. Or we can, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, it's interesting. You look at what the NCAA came out with in their rules and their how do we get back to sport? And what they basically have laid out is that if you're a volunteer, if you're on the side, if you are not playing on the field, you should probably be wearing a face covering. And to your point, if you're up in the stands and if they let people in the stands, I've got to believe that the responsible thing for, when you listen to the doctors, and I'm not a medical expert, but, I sit there and listen to the doctors, and they say, hey, it's a smart thing to do to wear a face covering, just like it's a smart thing to do to wash your hands as much as possible, right? Yeah. Like that's that good, when they say the good hygiene, they're talking about, washing your hands and, wearing some sort of a face covering. And it's not as much to protect you from other people. It's to make sure that you are, you're not spreading germs or viruses that you may have.
Yeah. Just from the branding school pride aspect, I think it's just going to be fun. And there's a lot of passionate fans out there, and this is just another way to show everyone how passionate that you are. And it doesn't have to end with COVID. I think I just foresee this going on for a while, where people are going to be putting it on in the stands, and it's going to make them feel good. They're like, oh, well, you got a hat, it's got this badass thing. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of my thoughts there. I think it's really cool what you guys did. You were able to pivot. So at what point were you like, we gotta do something different, and here's what we're gonna do, and here's how we're going to do it?
Yeah. It was probably like, I was actually going through some old emails today to look for a record, and I came across, it was like March 21st that I said that, we got to change now. So, 10 days after kind of everything, really hit, at first you want to sit there and say, hey, I'm being optimistic. This is only going to last 2 weeks and we're going to go right back to being normal. But the more you listen and hear, and you hear what the doctors say and you actually listen, it is like, to your point, this is going to go on for a while, which unfortunately, like I'm the first one to say, I want to go back to sponsorship and events. But it's nobody seems to have an answer. And so I think, we're making the best out of the situation that we can. And to your point, like, I think that like people actually like to make their own statements, and some of the different requests we've gotten from schools and graduates and, people that want to create their own custom, face cover, they have fun with it, and they, want to make their statement for their community or school or team. And so I think it's, and it's pretty visible position, right? As you think about it's right, right there in your face. And I think a lot of people do, they are going to make their, send their message. And so we're, hopefully we can have a little fun with it.
Yeah. Again, I just think there's an awful lot of opportunity there. So, hey, take me back for a minute. You get done with school and you majored in business?
Correct.
And what did you do from there? How did you How did you go from, hey, I'm a college graduate to I have this cool idea to start this events sponsorship business? Or what was the initial idea? When did it start, and how did you go?
Yeah. So actually, when I was at Rutgers, I hurt my neck, and I had a pretty much a career-ending neck injury. And one of my business school professors came over and said, "Hey, listen, you got to start to look at the future. And I want you to join. I want you to enter this MBA business plan competition." And it was, and I was an undergrad, but MBA program. So I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And so I entered with one of my teammates and a young lady who was a track athlete. And we created this idea. It was called Athlete One. And it was, for those of you who remember Hot Jobs, it was like the hot jobs for high school athletes in college programs, trying to create a easier way, if you're an athlete or a college, to get matched up together. So this is right when the, when technology had been booming, but was, certainly continuing to boom. And, we wanted to integrate video into it. So we created this Athlete One, we called it. And we got covered by Sports Illustrated, all these different media outlets, because they were like, hey, these 3 college student athletes are creating this business. And so we won the MBA business plan competition. They gave us a grant. We started this entity.
Wait. Let's go back to that. So you guys won the competition. What did you have to do to win the competition?
So we had to create a business plan. We had to present that business plan, and we had to we were judged by a panel of Rutgers business school people, both, academic folks, but also entrepreneurial folks who came back, to Rutgers and judged, evaluated, and they ultimately awarded us.
Wow. So automatically or right away, you're like, whoa, this is cool. We put this together. We wrote everything out. Here's our plan. And we wound up winning this contest. What type of confidence did that give you at that point? And then did you guys continue with it, or was that just something separate and you did something else? And then, hey, you started the business after that. What happened from there?
Yeah. So we did use that grant money to start it. And really, we had to go out and raise the money, and that was eye-opening. As much confidence as we had when we won, it quickly got, knocked down when you have to go and try to present to all of these different, whether it's VC or angel investors, and convince them that they should invest their money in your idea. And so that was for sure a challenge. And, ultimately we didn't raise enough money at the time to get the thing off the ground. But what happened was the press that we were able to get, I got a call from this guy who had started the Army All-American Bowl. I said, hey, listen, I'm trying to start this national all-star game. Why don't you come over and help me? And it's just me. And so I'd taken a job in like a entry-level job as an IT, it was kind of like IT headhunter, basically. And for 6 months I did it, and it was not pleasant. Wasn't something that I wanted to do. And so this, the guy from the Army Bowl had called me and said, hey, I'm ready, let's go. We want to build this. And, I jumped at it. And I still, to this day, it was probably the best decision I could have made. I made peanuts there, but I got great experience. I had a chance I was sitting in the meeting with the, number 2 guy at NBC Sports and meeting with all the different agencies. And as a kid who was, 25, 26 years old, I just got exposed to so many different facets of the sports marketing world. And, I did that for 5 years and just got as much experience as I possibly could.
Wow. So you did that for 5 years, you said?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. And during that time, or was the whole time, those 5 years, you're like, I'm going to learn as much as I can in this position, and then I'm going to move on and kind of do my own thing. Did you always have that in mind, or during that 5-year time period were you like, hey, I can grow, develop within this organization? What was the thought process? Or did it jump, every couple of weeks? You're like, I'm going to stay, and I'm going to go, or what? Tell me about that.
Yeah, it was a startup company, so I don't, there wasn't a whole lot of room to move up. I was, I ultimately was the first employee there. But, I wanted to stay as long as I could to get as much experience and try new different things. I knew eventually I wanted to start my own company. It just, I knew enough to know that I needed experience. I needed to build a network. I needed to fail. I needed to have some challenges that I didn't know the answer to. And that's what that allowed me to do. I did leave there to go and join Eddie Debartolo. Mr. Debartolo had started a sports agency, and I went to Debartolo Sports and Entertainment and joined up there.
Okay, so how did you know Eddie D? It's from Bill Walsh, or what? Or did your dad coach for the 49ers at some point?
Yeah, no, he didn't. Ironically, I did not know the Debartolo family. We were, certainly connected. My family and dad was connected through Coach Walsh, but that was actually a great quarterback coach by the name of Steve Clarkson. Was coaching Joe Montana's kids, and it's funny because Joe Montana says, hey, my kids won't listen to me, so I had to go and hire, Steve Clarkson to coach them, as quarterbacks, which is crazy. But so, Joe Montana was, his kids were training with Steve, and we were doing some stuff with Steve at the Army Bowl, and Steve ended up having a conversation with Mr. Bartolo, and one thing led to another, and Steve and I both went to Debartolo Sports and did our thing there for a couple of years.
Wow. So you're getting a wealth of experience, and I'm a huge proponent of working for as many people as you possibly can, having as many jobs as you can, because all that plays a role in each position that follows. And I'm sure you would agree with that. Plus, the creativity aspect, and as long as you're given that at a few of the positions where you have free reign to go out and do things and make things happen, develop partnerships, and it sounds like you were able to do that being employee one at the initial organization, and then moving over to Eddie D's team. Talk a little bit about that, about the creativity and really being able to go and make things happen. Or were you did they kind of have a stranglehold around what you were doing? You had to do this, you had to do that. It doesn't sound like that's the case.
Yeah, no, I was fortunate to work at organizations that were very startup minded, and really startup, from a personnel structure standpoint. So a lot of people would just tell me, hey, Garrett, it's white canvas, go figure it out. And that was like music to my ears, because that's what I do best. I think I figure it out, I build it, and I launch it. And so for sure, like those opportunities, and I would say probably every job where I've actually worked for another entity, I've had that kind of leadership where people just say, hey, you're really good at what you do, figure it out, and have been able to do that.
Okay, so you're with Eddie D for a couple of years. How old are you at this point?
Oh man, at that point I was probably like early 30s.
Okay. And so when did you start putting your business into action?
So when I left Debartolo Sports and launched SSEC, and really launched it with the focus of in my mindset was, I've done this for a lot of people, and I've made them, some good money, and I've built good brands. I can do this on my own. And so I set out and started SSEC. And at that point, I was probably mid 30s, early to mid 30s. And I went out and I was able to get USA Football as a client, USA Baseball as a client, Game Changer Media, Positive Coaching Alliance, all these guys that needed help from both a business development standpoint, but also as a whether it's an event or program or just strategic advice standpoint.
So Garrett, did you have existing relationships with some of these folks, or was it straight cold call?
It was like friends of friends was kind of the network. People that I worked with and done business with at some point recommended me.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it was it was definitely it's always a network. It's always referral based opportunities. So
and so you started this 6 years ago?
Yeah, like 10. Yeah, something like that. It's
6,
closer to 10 years ago.
Oh, it is now. Okay.
Yeah. So I did. So I have a little bit of an odd path to where I'm at right now, but so I did that with these NGBs, national governing bodies. And then the NFL came to USA Football and basically said, hey, we want to invest a lot of money from a grant standpoint into USA Football. We want to create this program, Heads Up Football. And at the time, USA Football came to me and said, hey, listen, you do a great job for us. We need you to come in-house and bring your staff in-house. And that was one of those pivotal points where I, what do I do? I have this entity. I love being in business for myself. But at some point in my life, I, want to work at the NFL. I want to do bigger things in football. And so I made the decision to move to USA Football. And so we moved over there. My staff and myself moved over full-time and did that for about 5 years. And then, we at that, that point.
And Garrett, I don't mean to cut you off, but is this right at the point where the NFL, all the concussion stuff was coming out and they really wanted to make an effort to tell everyone about safety and make sure they had a plan in place, and here's who we're partnering with, and this is how you tackle the right way, and that type of thing? Was that right at that point where the NFL was really ramping up?
It was. I think the NFL always, and the NFL is great at what they do, and they recognize, hey, listen, we can't do everything for everybody. We need an entity at the grassroots level that's not the NFL to work with the youth, and it's really the youth. We need an entity at the youth level to how are we getting these dads who are maybe accountants or lawyers who've never maybe really played football? How are we getting them prepared to teach tackle football? And so the NFL said, we need an entity to do it. We already created this entity, Commissioner Tagliabue and
Goodell.
It was before Goodell, but they created USA Football like in the late 2000s, and said we got an entity there. Let's have them drive it. So they said, hey, USA Football, this is kind of from a broad stroke standpoint, this is what we want you to do. Can you do it? And USA Football said, yeah, we can. And so, that was kind of the collaboration, and it obviously was much more detailed than that. But that was the collaboration around, how did Heads Up Football come to fruition? And, ultimately, how do we go about teaching and training youth coaches, to be better, youth football coaches, if you would.
So you guys you merged with USA Football. Your job when you get in there is the events, the sponsorships. That's what you guys were doing within USA Football. So at that point, you were more like a entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? At USA Football, they allowed me to kind of freelance, meaning kind of create, and had some success. You know, bringing in some different partners. You know, had a great chance to bring in different corporate partners. You know, had a chance to oversee their NFL flag program as well as their build their national teams. So I had a chance to build things from the ground up, and then also, drive revenue into the organization.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you were there for 5 years?
Yep. I was there for 5 years.
And then what made you decide to leave? Like what happened? It just ran its course?
It ran its course. It was, I married a New Jersey, Italian lady many years ago, and she wasn't moving. And USA Football, they wanted their senior staff inside the building, and just for me it was just not going to work. So we said, hey, listen, I just can't make the move out there. At the time, I was overseeing nearly 50 people. And so I was traveling back and forth every other week. So it was a stress on myself as well. And it was not in the cards for us to move out there. So we went our separate ways, and I restarted ssec and
nice.
Yeah, haven't looked back since. So
man, that's a cool story. And Garrett, you know what I love about it the most is that the people that you were able to work with and some of the experiences that you were able to have in working with some of these folks and these organizations. I mean, you're working for Eddie D. I mean, Eddie D, that guy's legendary. Eddie D, I need to tell this story because I'm a San Diego guy. Okay. I'm a San Diego guy. And Eddie D and Alex Spanos. You know Alex Spanos?
Uh-huh.
So Alex Spanos owned the Chargers. His son now owns it. Whatever, that's Dean Spanos, worst owner in professional sports, by the way. So in 1979, Alex Spanos, who's from Stockton, he was going to buy the 49ers. And the 49ers wanted to sell it to him. You know why? Because he's more of a local guy, okay? All of a sudden, here comes this kid in from Ohio, happens to be Eddie Debartolo, who swoops in at the last minute and buys the 49ers, okay? This is 79, okay? They won a Super Bowl, 81 season. Win it again, 84. Win it again, 88, 89, 94. So that's 5 the 49ers have. Dean Spanos, Alex Spanos, he got to buy the next team that was up. And that was in 1984. You know what team that was? The San Diego Chargers. Do you know how many Super Bowl rings the Chargers have? None. Do you know why? Leadership. And it starts at the top. And all you ever hear about Eddie D is first class, and the 49ers organization being first class. Now, was that what it was like when you were working with them?
100%. I mean, first class family, first class, person, just across the board. The Debartolo family is awesome.
Yeah, man. Oh, sorry, dude. I'm bitter. I got a hashtag out there. I really haven't put out there yet, but I joke around with my buddies. Hashtag Dean Spanos created the coronavirus, right? And the theory behind that is that the San Diego State men's basketball team, they're ranked 4th pretty much all year. They want to be in 5th, and they really had a legitimate chance at winning the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Now, did that tournament happen? No. Do you know why? The coronavirus. No. Okay. Dean Spanos would have been so jealous, and it would have made him look bad if the San Diego State men's basketball team finally won a championship, a major sports championship in San Diego. He would have felt horrible. He would have looked bad. He already looks bad because he moved the team from San Diego to LA, and it's just not working out very well, is it, Dino? So he colluded with the Chinese and created the coronavirus. That's the deal, and I'm sticking to it. What do you think?
I'm not sure. It's
totally true, man. It's totally legit. Wow. All right. I'm not bitter. All right. So, okay, Garrett, I'm gonna talk about a couple of things. So, coronavirus stuff that's going on right now, and I saw some interesting things going on in your state yesterday. A gym opening up, then the police coming, and the police pretty much are like, "Stay safe, peace, we're out." And I love seeing that because it seems like that gym owner, and I don't know the name of the guy or the gym, but it seems like they know what the heck they're doing, and they want to help people be healthy. Like that's why you own a gym. So you guys, you're experiencing things out there. We're experiencing things here. In your opinion, when do you think we're gonna open up as a country? And I know it's state by state, but how long do you think it's gonna take for everyone to ramp back up? Because small businesses, as you know, and as I know, it's been a challenge, and we've had to pivot with some things. So what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, great question. And, I'm rooting for college football to come back and the NFL to come back and high school sports to come back. I mean, that, when you really look at the economy and what makes it go, it's these travel sports tournaments, these, high school sporting events. It's the college football games, all these fans traveling from one market to the next. And that's what allows us to really grow and flourish. And as small businesses allows us to, new revenue to come in. I just, I go back to what, just listening to the doctors and listening what, they think we can and can't do. It just seems like we're going to be operating, with a governor on the motor here for some time.
And a lot of the governors are being taken to court. We want to keep everyone as safe as possible. There's a study that came out of San Diego County Health supervisors, and I can send you the link to this. But what they did, they went back and looked at the 194 cases in which people died of coronavirus. At least that's what was indicated on the death certificate, right? But what they found is that only 6 actually died of COVID-19. It was only 6. Other ones, something else happened, and they happen to have COVID in their system. So, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but there's 3.5 million people that live in San Diego County, and 6 have passed away of COVID. Does that justify shutting everything down? Again, I'm not a scientist. It's not all the data. It's one study. It's one area. But you look at it and you hear things like this that are happening, all over the place. And Italy had to go back and look at all the death certificates, and they had to change them because people are coming in or getting hit by a bus and died of COVID because they had COVID, right? So I don't know what's going to happen. I hope, I hope these folks figure it out soon.
Yeah, I do too. And I just think it's, I think for everybody, it's we sit here and the unknown is probably the hardest. As we all say, what's going to happen? Like we want to know what's going to happen, 2 weeks from now. And nobody seems to know what's going to happen 2 days from now, and it's a challenge. And it's one of those things where you can only you can only kind of control what's right in front of you, and it's day by day. And it's easier said than done, but it's one of those things where it's as we all want to look towards the future and say, hey, we want football to come back. If it does, it's going to be fantastic. I just don't know if anybody knows, and the unknown is what I think is the scariest part for
right.
all.
And as being a business owner, there's a lot of unknown, and there's a lot of risk, right?
Yeah.
And there can be that satisfaction, that reward, and some of that unknown is opening back up, and you're right, we don't know. However, I'm a firm believer that we do need to get back, and we do need to get people back to work. We need to get the kids back to school. We need to get people back playing sports and having fun and being outside and meeting new people and just doing all the things that we used to look like. And they keep talking about the new normal. Yeah, what is the new normal? I mean, again, in my opinion, there's just risk to everything. You walk outside, there could be lightning. You know what I mean? Get hit by lightning. You walk across the street, someone could have a bow and arrow and hit you with a bow and arrow randomly. You know what I mean? Does that ever happen? I don't know. Who knows? But stuff happens every single day, and there's risk every time you leave your house. Every day there's risk with every single, not every single, but a lot of food that you eat, but we still consume it, right? We still eat it. So there's risk everywhere. And as long as people understand that there's risk everywhere, and when you see the signs, enter at your own risk, well, that's what we're in right now. Everything's an enter at your own risk. So humans are smart. We're able to make decisions for ourselves. And that's just my personal feeling. I believe in people. I believe in humans, as it sounds like you do, to make their own decisions. That's just kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, no, see, I think different people deal with the risk and the unknown, differently. Myself as being a small business owner. There's certain people that love being a small business owner. There's other people that, would never want to be a small business owner because they don't want to deal with the unknown, the risk, the need to be entrepreneurial. And that's just, I just think it's and that's one of the challenges that we all are facing right now. There's so many different messages, and there's so many different kind of things being thrown at you that you don't know kind of what to believe, what not to believe, and which way to go. And I think that's where it's just, some people, it just happens to be, part of what their makeup are okay with that, and where others are definitely not. And so it's without a doubt an interesting time that, I go and talk to one neighbor and they have, one viewpoint, and another neighbor has a completely opposite. And
that's perfect. That's what you want.
Yeah.
You want healthy debate. You want people to have different opinions. It just seems like nowadays, either you have to, it's conformity. You have to believe this way. And if you don't believe this way, then you're evil, or you're this, or you're that. And you want to see people die. And it's like, no, that's a complete opposite. We're here to help people.
Yeah.
The whole thing is to help people. I want to help as many people as I can. We want to do it smart. We want to do it safely. But the only way for people to evolve and improve, to develop as people, is to understand that there are opposing views and differing opinions, and you can learn from that. And how can you use what you've learned here to help form new opinions that maybe you didn't have before? So all of that is good. It's great. Opinions, debate.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I go back to, and this is probably, as I observe and watch kids, when you watch kids, like at least in my neighborhood, they've figured out a way to play together, but be socially distant. Like I have kids in my block that sit literally, two little kids on one family sit on one side of the street, and the other kids from another family sit on the other side of the street. And they do dance parties, and they're playing, but they just happen to be playing literally with a street, separating them. And so I do think that, to your point, like we've got to figure out how to go forward, but do it safely, do it smartly, and, and do it in a way that, is going to limit the risk. To your point, there's there's always going to be risk, but how do you mitigate that risk and move forward?
You gotta have.
Nobody can survive.
You gotta have custom face covers.
Go ahead.
Custom face covers, man. I think I think that's a heck of a way to go. Might as well look.
That's for sure.
be safe and have some style to it. Hey, I want to ask you a couple of other things. So what would you say to people that are thinking about starting their own business? What advice do you have for those folks, especially right now?
Yeah. Jump in. Like the hardest thing to do is to jump off the cliff. But when you start a business, at least this has been my experience, you've just got to jump off the cliff. Sometimes you get pushed off, and that's okay, because at some point you're operating without a safety net, which is not can be scary. But if you have at some point you have confidence in yourself, you have the skill set, and you can go and build and operate, and ultimately generate an income, generate dollars to make your business work.
How much? Okay, last thing here. Hopefully it is. I don't know. I just keep talking. Sorry, Garrett. How much fun is it to be creative and from the conception of the idea, the first thought of an idea, say it's rally masks, right? Where you have to pivot to, hey, we put it in action. We got the website up. We're already starting to sell this. How much fun is that for you?
So for me, it's I have a chance to work with some great people, and I always to me, it's the closest thing to sports that I have, or to playing that I have. And that is, you're building something together. You're all in the boat, and you got to be rowing in the same direction, because if you're not, you're all going to drown. And, and that's what's been great for us about our, starting this business and running it is, we had a, really great, fun, business before, but all of a sudden with COVID-19, our boat was sinking and we were all about to drown. And so we had to pivot and start this. And, we all, had each other's backs, and we all pushed forward. And, ultimately, I've been able to keep everybody on, and hopefully we'll be able to continue that. So.
Have you been surprised by the success of the rally masks and what you guys have been able to do there, or did you expect it?
I for sure did not expect it. I was, I was talking with the guy that I partnered up with on the rally masks program, and because I don't have a warehouse and distribution capability, so I partnered up with a guy who does, and I worked with him at Debartolo. He's a longtime sports agent.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he had to pivot as well. And so, but it's getting into business with people that you trust and like and can have some fun with. And that's ultimately what we're doing. And, I didn't know if it was going to, get off the ground or not. And really it's been the schools and the leadership at the schools that have really driven it, because they see the opportunity to once again make it a little bit more fun for their kids, because they know, hey, the last thing that they want are teachers and students at a school and one of those surgeon's masks, right? They see it, whereas, hey, we can show some school pride. We can rally the community. We have some folks that are PTAs that are using as a fundraiser. We have teams that are doing it, with a team message on it. Just have all of these different, innovators putting their own stamp on it. And so I think that's what everybody likes, the fact that they can make it their own. And that's really where the success has come in.
Well, human innovation, what you're talking about, people are smart, have amazing ideas, and you want to help facilitate that and just kind of let them run with it. Well, Garrett, man, it's been a lot of fun. I'm sure we could probably talk for hours, but you got to get back at it. I got to get back at it. Really do appreciate you being a part of the Unity as Community podcast. We should try and do it again sometime.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Sully.
All right, Garrett. Thank you, man. Talk to you soon.
All All right. Take care.